Hi all of you, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Online, offline. Have you all got a copy? Online students, if you can hear me, can you confirm if you all have access to the articles, the article copy? Yeah? Hello Ibrahim. Hi Anu. You have the copy downloaded? Yes? Okay. And those on the YouTube, और कॉपीज हैं? चार पांच निकाल लो, मेरे पास तो है. Okay, good afternoon, Soumya, Sachrit, Bhuvaneshwari, Shivani, Sachin, Pooja. Okay, so all of you have, yeah, good afternoon. So take a copy. Today I have not given you too many articles. That's one of the change I want to do now, because I think many of you are getting overwhelmed by too many articles. You're not used to that type of study. So fine, we'll keep it thematic. They'll get one copy. Sit down. Share with somebody. That's okay, Vivek. No issues. Either ways, I'm the same person speaking. You can be this side or that side, doesn't matter. All of you keep a copy of the downloaded article, which I think is a very relevant article. And there are many things worth discussing in this. And not just the style of writing. I have taken more time discussing the essays type of topic, but this was a good one. Yes, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, no issues. Okay, so let's start off now. Okay. So before we dwell into discussions, some questions for all of you. Okay, you answer. Okay, you answer this. So, do we all agree? So, just some questions, queries from my side. Okay, आप yes, no, जो बोलना है, and don't think too much. What happens? ज़्यादा सोचने से क्या होता है ना? We modify our stance. In general, आपको क्या लगता है? Yes or no? In general, is good or bad? Okay, there are a lot of debates around this, but tell me instinctively, what do you think? First question. Do you all think acts like a rape, sexual assaults, these are the work of a perverted mind? Do we all agree on this? Yes, no? Raise your hand, all agreed? All agreed on this? Okay. If you can disagree, no issues. I want either ways. Okay? Yeah, today's theme is women issues, and I'm keeping your syllabus in mind, the type of questions asked, and trying to map. And I hope at the end of the session you'll go back somewhat informed better. I will not say enlightened, because that requires some bit of deeper thinking. Okay, so I see nobody is saying no, all say yes. Can we call these acts as animal behaviors? Yeah? Yes, no, some agreement. All of us offline, I can see your hands. Yeah, you all agree on this, don't agree. One disagrees. Some of you disagree? Yes or no? No. Okay. So I have got one person who says no. Anybody else know offline? No? No? We have more people saying no. It's not an animal behavior. So maybe I'll increase this to 5, 6 of you. Okay, and online, Even animals are better. Oh, no, that's another way of looking at things. If animals are better, तो वो अलग debate हो गया. Okay, animals are better. अच्छा ठीक है. I mean, I didn't want in that line, but ठीक है. At least I have put some idea into your mind. Okay, ठीक है. Okay, fine. So you have some yes or no. Okay, no I can understand. No कह रहे हो जो idea है animals are better. It was not in that sense. Okay, can we call this as a wild behavior, uncultured behavior? Okay, हम उस sense से बोल रहे हैं. ठीक है, okay, fine. ठीक, कोई बात नहीं. Second important question to all of you is that do you think these kind of acts, I mean, again, don't think too much, okay? I want it instinctively. Do you think this deserves death penalty? Particularly talking about those abuse against children, crazy stories, you know, 8-year, 3-year-old, okay, so in one case, couple of months also, okay? So how many of us offline think a death penalty? So इसमें थोड़ा सा skewed है towards yes, but there are 2-3 of you I think offline again. So ठीक है, there is a yes dimension, no dimension, but I think most of us are saying yes. Yes, Kappa says no, yes if proven guilty, fair enough, okay. So that's one aspect. Achha, now how many of us think that the state and the government is responsible on these issues? How many of you think the state and government are responsible? Okay. Partially, not partially, yes or no batao mujhe. Otherwise it becomes a deeper issue. Okay. Most of us say yes, maybe some of us can say no. Okay. In that case, we also agree that agar state responsible hai, then state has the onus to some extent to deal with the problem in that case. There is some debate around a state's role. Okay. So most of us say yes, states are responsible. Okay, fine. Now, one question to all of you again. What do you think about marriage as an institution? I'll just give you 2 choices, 3 choices maybe. Not important, very important, and very, very important. So 1, 2, 3 mein. Okay, not important, very important, and very, very important. 1, 2, 3. How many of you are 1, not important at all? Okay, so some of you not important. How many of you are very important? Okay, so I can see even distribution here. And those who are saying it is very important, khaskar very, very important mein, do we all agree that there must be some effort to preserve marriages as an act or institution? Yes? And I think one of the dimensions of Indian culture has been a pride on marriage as an institution. Marriage is a very important construct in society in terms of what we do, our cultures, our tradition. So, Khaskar, these guys, I think you will agree on that marriage is a sacred institution. Do you want to say that? Yes? Again, there is no right wrong here. I'm just asking you so that you know where you belong in some debates. And then as the debates happen, discussions happens, and you know the nuances of things, then you can consider that maybe I could have been on the other side. Or maybe I did not think on the issues with as much deep I should have. So Kappa says yes, culture, Soumya says no, Bhuvneshwari says yes. My guess most girls will say maybe no. Okay, most boys will be on this side. Okay, because you know receiving end of these institutions are generally the girls. Okay, so there could be one dimension. Bhumika says no, Soumya says no. Okay, my guess. Okay, on the dashboard, very important, very, very important, important. Okay, so again I can see that most of you are in this side. When I say very, very important, matlab it's you can't violate it. It is a institution of worth preserving. There is a element of maybe divine or culture, whatever. Okay, so that's one aspect. Achha, now one more thing. What do you think has been the role of workplaces, including MNCs, in promoting or stopping, okay, or maybe addressing these issues of women and gender issues? Do you think they have been responsible for some of the atrocities? Urban areas mein, maybe workplace harassment mein. So do you think they are responsible to some extent, yes or no? Yes, yes. I can see most of you will say yes. Some of you go nuanced, you know, we can't hold. So agar aap yes bolte ho, say if some gender issues has happened in a company, okay, do you think the company must be held responsible? If there is ek to hai official ho gaya, officially somebody says things, definitely company is responsible. But official nahi hai, some girl gets harassed, some girl gets abused, maybe even otherwise it could be a gender neutral issue also, maybe a man also gets abused, there can be transgender also, whatever. So do you think the company or the institution is liable in terms of the responsibility? Yes or no? How many? To some extent बड़ा खतरनाक होता है. You're playing it safe. Like, yes or no में बताओ. How many says yes offline? Okay, so I don't know, maybe 50-50 है. ठीक है, वो जो भी समझो. मुझे आपसे आंसर नहीं चाहिए एज इन कि लिख दिया तो लिख दिया टाइप, सलमान खान टाइप, वो नहीं चाहिए मुझे. आई वांट सम कन्वर्सेशंस हैपनिंग. क्या आपने सोचा है, नहीं सोचा है? हु शुड yes, okay, yes, whole institution is not a liable. अब whole part में कौन है? CEO होगा, okay, owner नहीं होगा, owner होगा, manager नहीं होगा. ये तो I'm saying as a company वो liable है या नहीं? Should the company be responsible, okay, for that or not? First people, society, then blame institutions. Sat is okay, ठीक है, people, society, हम, okay. So this is a debate. This is an yes. So I hope you understand that these are not easy questions to answer. और अगर deep चले जाओगे, there is something I am forcing you to think on. Okay, should companies be liable or not? So should states own the issue and do something or not? Okay, what is the role of judiciary, the role of society, the role of marriage? Okay, and who do you think commits crimes against women, perverted mind, maybe uneducated mind, whatever we have? Okay? So I think we have some understanding of where you want to be in this conversation. And this is an important one. What do you think about the death penalty? और इतने आसान answers नहीं है. Because अगर आसान होता, तो we would have taken a step more or less. The debate is still, okay, simmering out there. होना चाहिए, नहीं होना चाहिए, and so on. In totality, it needs everyone unitary approach. ठीक है? Okay. So you all have your ideas. ठीक है? Now I'm reading an article published yesterday. Express में था, Pratiskha Baxi's article, and I looked up who she is. She has been a sociologist. She has started a foundation of her own. She works in JNU. She's also part of OP Jindal. Okay, and she has awards. And she writes and comments extensively on laws, okay, legal aspects of women's rights. She is one of those feminists who talks about issues from the women's perspective. So, I mean, definitely an established person hai. Okay. And recently, you all know about the changes that we have had. We have the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita replacing Indian Penal Code, Nagrik Suraksha replacing the Criminal Code. We have Indian Evidence Act also replaced. So some things have been done. Okay. Now let's read this article and be alert, all of you, online, offline, and even after I finish the article, I expect some of you should think through this. So Kappa says no death penalty, understand the cause, problem, okay, background goes wrong, rehabilitation. Okay, fine. Your point taken. Let's start off now. तो हम ये questions को दोबारा after I have read, I'll come back and ask again. ठीक है? चलो. Let's start off. Oh, you like this? Good. बेटा ये पढ़ाई ऐसा है ना, if you don't think and study for these topics or for in general the UPSC preparation, फिर तो आपका पढ़ाई बेकार है. Okay, this every topic that you read, IR, environment, social issues, governance, polity, ethical issues, ये अलग बात है. We know the key words which will get us marks. Okay, but that's not how it should have been. हम इतना गाली देते हैं education system को, but exactly what we are doing even in our coaching classes. Okay, model answer दे दो sir, रटा मार लेंगे types. Okay, so I'm happy if you like this process, and I wish I could do this across subjects, but ठीक है, we'll go one by one. We'll start off now. It says, the political, legal, and the social order that tolerates laceratingly high threshold of sexual violence once again reveals the extent of sexual impunity in our polity. ऐसे sentences ना याद कर लेते हैं. Very well written. And this is a nice phrase. Laceratingly high threshold of sexual violence. Lacerations क्या होते हैं? Deep cuts. Okay. And our system, be it political system, be it legal system, be it our social setup, we are very tolerant to sexual violences. I mean, if you ask me personally, the sexual violence does not shock me. What shocks me, कि अच्छा लोग इतना भी गुस्सा हो सकते हैं, right? I mean, if I look at the history of violence, you must look up some other older ones. Okay, of course, इसमें sexual violence में degree नहीं होना चाहिए. This was worse than that one, but definitely some of them literally wrench your guts. I remember one incident. Okay, one was the 2012 Nirbhaya case. Okay, I mean it was difficult to imagine कि somebody can go to that level of violence. एक और था उसके बाद में 18 था शायद, a small girl 8 years old, आसिफा नाम था. Okay, and she was violated, she was drugged, okay, she was raped and murdered, and entire conflict was partly around कि कुछ लोग थे tribes who were not vacating the land. An 8-year-old girl was abducted. Okay, she was tortured for 3-4 days. She went missing, I think, for approximately 1 week. Shayad. I can't even imagine somebody as cruel, inhuman, bolo, whatever. There was an Unnao case. Unnao case when the father was killed in the custody. And the Unnao survivor, along with her, I think, lawyer, a truck tried to kill them. Okay. And it was a politician involved. There was one Hathras case. Hathras में तो stampede भी हुआ है. उसके पहले a girl was again, she was strangulated, spinal injury, and she bit her, cut her tongue. And again उसके against में protest हो गया था. Were found guilty. A good number of political parties, including national parties, took out protests in support of the accused. And you know what's happening right now in Bengal, Maharashtra. So I think it's as I said, no, I'm surprised that people can be so angry. The last time I saw anger was 2012. Uske baad to it was normalized. And now I'm happy that this outrage is happening, but I'm also skeptical कि इसके आगे नहीं जाने वाला. Okay, because साथ में और 2-3 हो गए, nothing else is happening there. So it says that our order tolerates laceratingly high threshold of sexual violence once again reveals the extent of sexual impunity in our polity. I hope you understand the word impunity. Basically, total disdain. Okay, we don't care about that this is the wrong thing. We don't care about the consequences. Okay, we are completely immune to कि यार देखा होगा, देखा जाएगा. It's impunity. You're acting without that fear. There is sexual lack of fear in our, okay, achhi hai. The horrific murder and rape of a resident doctor in RG Kar Medical College, an hospital in Kolkata, led to expressions of collective trauma, anger and mourning. It led to powerful protests by doctors, nurses, students, teachers, workers, fine. The case now stands transferred to CBI. एक तो यार ये जो institution अपने आप में it's a very questionable one. Okay, an institution which should have been fair, a very methodical, a very diligent, objective, and we know CBI also botches a lot of investigations. एक आध नहीं काफी होता है. And the way they have emerged as watchdogs for the government, anyways, ठीक है, CBI को मिला है, after directions of the Calcutta High Court. Okay, fine. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Okay, now this is a very important change because, dekho, a common language is that everything which was colonial must be dismantled. Everything which is reflective of or not reflective of modern day things must be dismantled. Anything which is not Indianized in terms of Indian values must be changed. So Indian Penal Code 1800 का था, Evidence Act 1800 का था, 60s and 70s का था. So we changed all of that. So one reason why we changed was that it was a colonial one, and colonial का मतलब क्या होता है? तीन चीज होता है colonial. One is there's too much of centralization is colonial. Okay, second, colonial because it is not sensitive to our own conditions and society. तो वो colonial हो जाता है. It's a foreign idea, colonial है. And colonial where we say the response is not befitting the type of problem it is creating. Maybe it's too mild or it is too severe. Okay, colonial means that. Essentially, BNS was supposed to be the more modern one. More modern, reflective of Indian sensibilities, reflective of Indian conditions. Because ये अभी किया आपने? Okay, after 30-40 years, okay, or 80-90 years बात कर रहे हो, तो we expect it to be better. It was justified on the grounds of gender justice. The mass renumbering, ये काम किया हमने penal code में lot of numbering change कर दिया. Okay, numbering में the women issues have now come ahead. Okay, and crimes against women at the beginning of the code. However, this meant nothing to victims. It's a very superficial, in some ways inconsequential. आपने number change कर दिया तो क्या change कर दिया? So it means nothing to victims, whether in Uttarakhand or Bihar or Maharashtra. Renumbering does not create a culture of deterrence, nor does death penalty. So this author says that we don't have a culture of deterrence, and death penalty does not really change the trajectory of how things happen and the consequences. So she says that we don't agree on death penalty. Okay, fine. Rejecting feminist recommendations. This lady herself is a strong feminist. Okay, the BNS introduced the death penalty in rape law. Okay, now there is a feeling that some of these changes are politically motivated for popular support, and that's actually in some ways unfortunate. Laws, we want the laws to be more diligent, laws to be more upright, laws to uphold certain values even if they are not popular. Okay, because अगर आप जाओगे popularity पे, फिर तो बेटा reform कभी possible नहीं है. What's popular, will always challenge lot of reforms and new ideas. And laws of this kind, they should not be guided by popular interests. The popular interest is lynch the accused. The popular interest is, no trial, time waste कर रहे हो, सीधा लेके मारो उनको. So death penalty का introduction is often seen as a popular demand, which we have agreed to. It expanded the regulation of sexuality instead of protecting the bodily autonomy of all victims of sexual violence. Very, very powerful sentence. The crimes, gender crimes जो होते हैं, gender crimes are essentially about violation of your own body. Whether it is a male, a female, a transgender, okay, LGBT rights जो भी हैं, it's about, okay, the violation of body, which should have been that ways. But what we have done is we have defined this type of act is not a crime. For example, you cannot have rape in marital relationships. Okay, and marital में भी separation हो गया है, okay, and there is a rape, the punishment is far lesser than a rape otherwise. Okay, which means what? आप sexual crimes को define कर रहे हो. Okay, like miscarriage, okay, without consent of a married woman. Okay, that is punishable. What about unmarried women? Okay, so you have defined that it's a sexual crime agar married hai and then there is miscarriage deliberately done, okay, for some reasons. But there are examples, no, we can have pregnancy out of marriage. You're defining sexuality here. Okay, ek to transgender ka issue uthaya nahi hai hum logon ne. I'll talk about that separately. So in our sexual violences, it says rather than protecting the bodily autonomy, what you have done is you are regulating sexuality. Although Article 377 under the Penal Code was rejected as unconstitutional, but then there is not much protection for, okay, so essentially when I removed 377, it was essentially what? कि अगर consensual sex हो रहा है in homosexual relationship, it's not a crime. That's all. But can a transgender, okay, be forced into sexual violence? Can a transgender be a victim of rape and atrocities? Yes. उसके बारे में है ही नहीं. Nothing defining. Okay. So as long as consensual है, criminal नहीं है. But what about, okay, acts of violence? You are defining, okay, and regulating sexuality rather than protecting the bodily autonomy of the victims of sexual violence. It says the BNS was drafted during the mass scale and systemic sexual violence of Manipur. I'm sure you've heard about what's happened in Manipur. Either ways, whether it is, okay, the Meiteis or the Kukis or the Nagas, whatever. The fact is, sexual violence has been a very, very common tool in conflicts. Whether you talk about communal violence, you talk about caste violence, you talk about even international violence. You talk about violence, okay, war wala bhi utha lo aap. It's a very common tool. And sexual violence is a very effective tool in subjugating and demoralizing societies. I mean, that's what the medieval rulers did. That's what, you know, the earlier state empires did. You go to a place and violate the women, ताकि पूरा community gets demoralized. So it is not a sexual violence anymore. It's more of a power projection, okay, ways. So when you are parading women naked because of whatever reason, caste violence ho, communal violence ho, even crimes like adultery ho jaye, you have no business to parade a woman naked. You have no business, okay, to order, okay, kangaroo courts, cups, to order rape of women because they have violated some honor codes, right? So we are missing that aspect here. So we are expecting कि because Manipur violence के context में हुआ था, the act should have been more sensitive. That it should have seen that these acts of violence are more than sexual violence. They actually are the consequence of other social, okay, problems in society. So I ask you that when you say that a rape is a act of a perverted mind, a rape is an act of an animal who is an animal, whatever. What you're doing is you are blaming the person, not the system. And when you call a man or a perpetrator of violence as a sick man, a perverted man, a psychopath, तो आपने क्या किया बेसिकली? आपने कहा कि ये आदमी का प्रॉब्लम है. Okay, so ट्रीटमेंट करो, काउंसलिंग करो. The man is madman. Madman को क्या करोगे punish? Okay, so when you do that, you have very conveniently removed that कि सोसाइटी का भी रोल बनता है. The man commits the crime not so much because of sexual urges. It's not a chemical locha in mind. It's simply that the society encourages that under caste subjugation equations. The society encourages that as a part of communal agendas. Our structure encourages that as a part of hierarchical issues of patriarchy. So actually, calling a perpetuator as a perverted mind, आप society को पूरा माफ कर दे रहे हो. Okay, the man is something else there. Not simply he is a sick man. Sick man को कर दो के treatment. A mad man goes and murders. तो क्या करते हो आप? Mad man था यार, क्या करो? ठीक है, उसको लेके बंद कर दो. That's all right. A sexual predator is not actually a madman. And this guy who committed RG Karwala, you don't call him a madman. No, बहुत planning कर रखा है. He has been eyeing that girl for some time. He was tracking her down. He was stalking her down. And I'm sure he had some support of the power structures there. He's not a madman. He's a very, very intelligent man who has used his intelligence in a different way. That's why it says that because it was an act in the mass scale violence in Manipur, we're expecting things to be different. The Verma Committee, Justice Verma Committee was set up after that 2012 Nirbhaya issue. And he gave a lot of recommendations what to do. The committee formed after the December 12 gang rape in Delhi had recommended making command responsibility liable to persecution. Command responsibility includes the police, includes the political setup, includes the judicial systems also, includes even our patriarchal systems, especially when the states ignore their duty to prevent mass-scale sexual violence. Agar states, I mean, I remember काफी news में था. In this Middle East violence, there was one case and काफी दिन where some civilians had gone to a jail demanding कि the prisoners को बाहर निकालो, so we will sodomize them, we will sexually assault them, so that they are punished properly. They demanded this, and the police released those prisoners also. How sad that can be. एक setup, state setup. There is a group of masses, civilians, and whatever be their mentality, they're demanding कि release the prisoners because we will punish them sexually. We will destroy their morale and we will humiliate them. And the police succumbs. कि ठीक है यार, इतना violence मुश्किल, release them. And they did that. This is an example of a state being complicit in these violence. ये तो बहुत explicit वाला हो गया, but there are also other ways how we do that. So especially when the state ignores the duty to prevent mass-scale sexual, what's happening in Bangladesh, I'm sure the minorities there are also impacted there. Any violence, whether it's Afghanistan, it's India, it's Pakistan, the minority groups will suffer, and in groups the women will suffer the most. Wo tribes ho, it's a typical majority minority ka power game going on, where the command structures, be it police, judiciary, sometimes seems to be siding with the larger numbers. But this was ignored. The BNS also ignored the serious recommendations to redress and prevent sexual violence made repeatedly by autonomous women movements. So we'll talk about this afterwards. It says, contrary to the spirit of the Vishaka judgment, the process led by women to redress sexual harassment was handed over to employers who have vested interest in not preventing or redressing sexual harassment at the workplace. There is one, under the workplace Vishaka guidelines, where we have an act called as POSH Act, Prevention of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. And the POSH Act के अंडर में जो committees बनती थी, the committees were managed and manned by the lady employees of the company. They had an important representation. and they had the responsibility of taking charge, hearings and whatever. But what has happened is now, okay, in against that spirit, now the responsibility is given to the employers. So if I'm a company, I am the employer. You think I'll have interest in reporting such crimes against women? It'll show bad on me, right? It's like, I am the person who has interest in hiding the matter. How can I bring justice there? Okay, so it says that who have interest in not preventing, and backlash against those who fight sexual harassment is now institutionalized. Three type of bodies, they fight against institutional harassments. One is media, second are NGOs, and third are reformers who may act independently. In today's time, I think all of us understand where media is. Media is its pathetic lowest level in terms of sensibility, in terms of responsibility, and we know what the jokers are doing. Okay, it's an open fact. All of us know what's happening. The other two important bodies were the NGOs, the civil society, plus the independent, workers or reformers. What has happened is, in the name of nationalism, bolo, in the name of country's national interests, lot of NGOs have been defanged. Okay, and NGOs like Greenpeace or Oxfam or Amnesty International, like Jai Singh ka bhi ek tha local, all of them have been compromised, either declared illegal or the funding stopped. See, it's like, what should have happened actually is maybe regulating these NGOs in some way rather than completely killing them. Because when the state operates without these checks and balances, जैसे आप पार्लियामेंट में, it's very convenient to say कि opposition time waste करता है. Opposition is unnecessarily debating. And remember, okay, it was, I think, in the times of Sushma Swaraj, where Congress said this, कि BJP is wasting our time and not allowing the House to function. A very smart answer by Sushma Swaraj was, it is the responsibility of the Treasury bench and the government to run the session properly. Okay. So if you are not addressing the problems as opposition, it's our duty that we challenge you, right? हमारा काम थोड़ी है बैठ के कि सब शांति से आओ, शांति से जाओ, all vote quietly. No. Our work is to challenge if you are wrong. Our work is to question if we have doubts. And some of them may be frivolous doubts. But the responsibility of running the system is the government's. The government can't complain कि मुझे काम करने दिया नहीं जा रहा है. Okay. The same thing applied here. That it is the work of the civil society to challenge the governments. उनका काम ही यही है. Okay. They are supposed to, bring out the atrocities, the gaps. They're supposed to question, whatever omission commissions might have happened. Usme government bolega that they're working against us, then the whole purpose is defeated. Every institution, not to the government, there's no democracy here. It says that unfortunately that there's a lot of backlash against the protesters, and that has now been institutionalized. We have called the protesters all sorts of names. Anti-national protesters are careless, protesters are fake, they are paid. And we have seen this happening in the farmers' protest, right? Okay. This has become another culture in terms of how we demonize some of the protests which actually may be genuine. Okay. Even the courts as workplaces. Okay. Change in rape culture is not possible if difference, critique and dissent are censored, disciplined or criminalized, as witnessed in the Hathras case and the terrifying assertion of law as patriarchal caste. Very powerful written. इसको याद कर लेना. That when looking at changing rape cultures, it's not possible if a difference, critique and dissent are censored. disciplined or criminalized. I've seen this happening even in case of the wrestlers protesting against the atrocities committed on them. Roadblock kar de rahe hain, it's so inconvenient there, wasting our time. Protests are integral to our democratic process. Protest dissents are the very basis of public accountability. Be it anti-corruption, and I tell you, there's a lot of hope when the anti-corruption movement happened. 10, 15 years ago, Anna Hazare was participating. Back then, even Kejriwal was part of the anti-corruption protest. And good thing it happened, it exposed a lot of things there. Usko agar aap criminalize kar dete ho, that is wasting government time. It's unfortunate. The mass-scale defunding of women's group, lot of NGOs have been defunded. The women's group have been defunded, who worked with rape survivors and gender-based violence have been fatal. It has led to tremendous loss of experience and expertise. Again, it is, I do not know the details of this, but I've heard about the stories. Our previous Chief Justice, Rajan Gogoi, who was also the Rajya Sabha member eventually, was part of the Ayodhya judgment also. He has a serious case of allegation against him, where one of the, I think, law interns thi shayad, who has complained about harassment by him and even compromising her modesty. That girl lost her job. She was kind of shut up. The system, I mean, maybe she was wrong, whatever, but it never came out in open properly. And he ultimately, Rajan Gogoi, unfortunately, even after being CGI, he was given a political position as the Rajya Sabha member. So it's an example where people in power are compromising. We call this as institutions having impunity. Aage batata ye wala. So defunding a company's institutional capture. When you defund an organization, आपने वो institution को capture कर लिया. They are now at your mercy. Where policies on admissions, recruitments, rules of seniority or exclusive governance are set aside to facilitate nepotistic, arbitrary processes in admissions and recruitments. So while we know this problem, this is expressing that it compromises the whole culture of challenging the institutions. When institutions gather impunity, it is inevitably dangerous for women. The state is heavily invested in funding forensics. Now see, ये मैंने पूछा आपको. Do you think the state has a responsible in women issues or not? Answer is yes, it does. But does it mean it must be given all power to control? That's the question. The state is responsible means the state must not have full power. It means there must be powerful bodies to challenge the state, be it media, be it NGOs, be it civil society, be it judiciary. Judiciary is not supposed to allow the institutions of political systems to work on their own. That's why these three bodies are considered to be independent ones in terms of separation of powers. याद आ रहा है आपको? The state, the legislature, and the judiciary. So is it state's responsibility? Answer is yes. But it does not mean, because it is the state's responsibility, it does not mean that they must be given complete power to regulate and manage. Because again, same idea of employers. If the employers have the power, then they will suppress it. If the employers have vested interest, they will not allow these things to operate a bit more openly. इसी को बोलते हैं impunity culture of the institutions. It says, when institutions gather impunity, it is inevitably dangerous for women. The state is heavily invested in funding, yet is there no funds to provide rape survivors clothes. When it seizes clothes, samples, items for foreign analysis. Providing such kits to rape survivors has not yet become part of right to life and jurisprudence. Okay, fine. You understand this? The state is heavily invested in funding technology. Nirbhaya funds were used to install CCTV, deploying CCTV and so on. Yet, designing online courts without safety audit or using forensic techniques of power which create vulnerabilities and harm instead of safety, accountability, deterrence, foreground the male in the state. Basically, कहना ये चाह रहे हैं that the government and the institutions are not short of funds. They are not short of money. They have money to investigate. They have money to bring in technology. But money invested for basic rights of women is not there. As in, can you not have 2-3 more trained police women, okay, in dealing with these issues? A common concern आता है, the police are overburdened. Okay, the police has too much of responsibility. Okay, it's difficult to allocate a woman for women issues alone. इसके लिए पैसे नहीं क्या आपके पास? It is difficult to believe that a rape survivor is not given basic clothes by the state. A shelter home nahi hai कि अच्छा you can be here safe without exploitation. Okay, it says the state has no funds to create shelter homes, safe houses, provide financial support survivors. It must be the state's responsibility to appoint maybe the best lawyers for these kind of crimes. So it is not an issue of lack of funds here. Okay, following the rape, the language of compensation is pulverized to the extent that it is not seen as right for the harm done. It's argued that women lie to get money. ये आप बहुत सुने होंगे ये वाला part. There are lot of cases against men are concocted. Lot of cases against men are women exploiting. Lot of divorce cases are women blackmailing. So it's not that it is not right, but to say all women issues are of that kind is so unfortunate. So you are using your power, your state, to basically establish that women are lying to get money. That if I establish a harassment case, मैंने पैसे निकाल लेना है. Okay, but this is not the norm. There always people abuse it, but this is not how we must look at things as sensitive as this. Following rape and murder in Calcutta, the Supreme Court set up a national task force of doctors to create gendered safety norms for medical professionals. By the way, I will ask one more question to all of you. You're aware, no, that the courts have taken up the issue so moto. What's the meaning of so moto? Okay, nobody has told them, but they decided it's important because of public significance. What do you think? Is it right or wrong? Are you happy about this or not? That the court has taken up the issue on its own. So moto. It's wrong, it's right. Most of you can't decide this. असल ज़्यादा सोचो मत. एक instinctive answer होता है कि अच्छा हुआ कि बुरा हुआ. It's a type of assertion. It is right. Okay, it's wrong. ठीक है? So let's see what the article says. Okay, you have an idea there. It says, okay, अब यहाँ तो पैसे की बात हो रही है. It says that Supreme Court has set up a task force to create a gendered safety norms for medical professionals. However, safety must be linked with defunding and impunity. ये important है. Women issues will not be addressed simply by putting up CCTV cameras. Women issues will not be addressed simply by having bouncers and security guards to protect the women. The root of the problem lies, okay, is this and this. As long as perpetrators have the sense of impunity कि मेरा कुछ ज़्यादा बिगाड़ नहीं सकता कोई. As long as perpetrators know that they cannot be challenged, okay, as openly, okay, these things won't work. In fact, in the Hathras case, the girl who was strangulated had spinal problem, who cut off her tongue also. She was hospital and she gave a statement against the perpetrators. And then she died. Yet, okay, the issue went on for a long time. It was seen as the Dalit girl was trying to, con the society, and apparently what was proven was that this girl and that boy were in talking terms for 1 year, and there are almost more than 100 calls, okay, where they've exchanged. So those protesting in favor of accused, they said that the girl was trying to misuse the friendship, and it was not really a crime of violence, something else it was given. Which means what? The perpetrators have itna bada evidence ke baad bhi, a girl who is dying has an injury, cut off her tongue, okay, and she's giving a statement, okay, this is what has happened. And yet that some of them were given lesser sentences. The issue went on for a long, long time, and one of them was also ultimately allowed, evidence nahi tha. Which means what? That until you address problems of impunity, until you address concerns where the institutions which challenge the bodies are not defunded, ये problem जाने वाला है नहीं. अब जितना भी लगा लो CCTV cameras here. Conditions of sexual and gendered unsafety are produced by impunity institutions that work together. It's a very powerful word. Anything in the society or otherwise that gives a sense of protection for the accused, okay, the courts, the police, our social hierarchy systems, our marriage institutions, our caste systems, all which, okay, kind of give the accused some semblance of power that he cannot be harmed, we call those as impunity institutions. So to address problems of gender issues, you must address the impunity institutions. The biggest one is also the political system. Many of the perpetrators are politically connected. Many of them are politicians themselves. Hathras case mein, Hathras nahi, Unnao case mein, it was Sengar, he was one of the politicians, MLA the, okay, and he did what he did. Okay, and I'm sure something will come up, be it Assam, be it Bengal, okay, something will come up there, how they were politically protected. Yes, Jessica case, Jessica Lal case mein, the political system was involved. Okay, and the worst case, you have seen that a survivor of gang rape, no? What was the name? Gujarat mein, yeah? Bilkis Bano. Okay, they are acquitted, released, they are celebrated. They are part of a function where you are actually celebrating their victory of coming back. That's example of an impunity institution. Okay? So until you solve this and they work together, you can't solve gender issues. Now this is a question, can safety jurisprudence develop tort laws? Let me explain what tort laws are. I mean, a very crude idea. Tort law basically means that even if institution is not directly involved, okay, it has some responsibility in terms of paying for the damages. Okay, even if it's like I'm a company and maybe company has a strict policy that we will not encourage any type of atrocities, but some event happens in my premise or it happens by my employer, then I and the company and institution has some responsibility. Okay, we call that as tort laws. It's not, I'm not directly involved, but indirectly, yes. The question is, asking, there can't we have tort laws? Why is the law on constitutional tort not applied when an institution fails to provide safety to women? मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ. Do you think we must have tort laws or not? Yes or no? Now, this is not an easy answer. On one hand, yes, because it looks very logical. Other hand, अगर tort laws आ जाते हैं, then the institutions will have interest in suppressing the matter. Okay, they'll have interest in not allowing that matter to come to light because it impacts them. The better way was that bodies like the posh ke bodies hain. The posh bodies must be empowered. The posh bodies must be given the right to investigate, collect evidence and take action. But not a blanket tort. That's one idea. The idea says no. Employers hain, so they must be liable to some kind of damages. Just say this children who died, Okay, unfortunately, ORN flooding में, is the sector liable to the to some compensation or not? The coaching sector has. So I know a lot of demands that made all coaching institute must pay up something or something, whatever. Some of them saw that as a blackmail. Some of them saw that as part of the taught, which is unofficial. And some said it is fairly unfair, unjust there. This is not an easy question to answer. She says we must have tort laws, but that's your call ultimately. Like my personal choice is the Vishakha guidelines and the POSH committees must be very, very strong. And so that these matters are not suppressed. These matters come out and justice given accordingly. Okay? Surely, workplaces, and so there must be minimum standards. अगर वो meet नहीं होता है, तो definitely the company must be liable. Minimum standards like CCTVs, maybe the career profiling, maybe regular interview, maybe an ombudsman, maybe a committee where women can share. Okay, those are the institutions we must have in place. Agar wo nahi hai, the company definitely must be liable, but not otherwise in general. Okay, that's one of the debates that we have. Yeah, they're very powerful in terms of checks and balances. Yes, Pragya, you're right. Okay, so in bringing tort law to rape and murder at workplace, perhaps the culture of deterrence might be built. And even the author says not sure, shayad ho sakta hai, things can get better. Essentially, we're addressing the whole concept of impunity institutions. Okay. Intersectionality, now part of constitutional doctrine on the jurisprudence on the rights of rape survivors, is meaningful only when it displaces impunity. Let me explain this. This is the first question we asked you. What do you think? That is the accused, should we call him as a sick man, a perverted man, a psychopath man, animal behavior? So when we do this, realize that we are putting the blame entirely on the person. And to some extent, we are pinning it on his mental health. Agar mental health पे बात चली जाती है, then the solution is go treat him. उसकी गलती नहीं है ना, वो तो बीमार आदमी है. I am a sick man. I have a chemical problem. I have hormonal problem. मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? So treat me, but don't punish me. That's one of the ideas. But the fact is that these things happen at the intersection of society and the impunity institutions. Okay. There is intersection of caste systems, communal prejudice, racial prejudice, intersection of historical perceptions, intersection of where the police is compromised, the judiciary probably not as effective. So you must see these crimes more at the intersectionality of issues, not merely the fault of a man who is a sick man who is probably an insane man. So intersectionality is a very powerful concept in gender crimes. Okay, acts of rape and khaskar acts of gang rape. Okay, it's entirely a power game going on. There is nothing sexuality in terms of sexual urge. There's nothing in terms of spontaneity of a sexual drive. It's always planned. Okay, it's always executed, keeping in mind the impunity institutions. कि हमारा कौन बिगाड़ लेगा? Okay, I have the caste in my favor. I have my brother, uncle, father who is a political system. मुझे कौन बिगाड़ सकता है यहाँ पर? And I'll establish my superiority over the person. What happens in marital rape? An example of a man establishing his power on the woman. It is not a sexual act at all. Okay, marital rape is an example of patriarchal notion that I am in control. The man is in control. The woman must obey and be subjugated. There's nothing sexuality in this. That's why we call this as intersectionality. The idea is that these crimes happen at the intersection of caste issues, patriarchal concerns, communal divide, compromised judiciary and political systems, and also ineffective policing systems. ठीक है? So intersectionality ये कह रहा है कि अगर आपको ये एड्रेस करना है, you cannot address it till you remove impunity first. Till a person knows कि caste उसे बचा नहीं सकता है, you cannot address intersectionality. Till a person knows कि even if my father is a political leader, he can't save me, I cannot have intersectionality being addressed. So intersectionality now is part of the constitutional doctrine, that when you look at these cases, don't look at these cases only from that act. Look at the larger social political system that perpetuates it. What happened in Manipur, for example, it's not an act of a group got together and gang raped. No. It's at the intersection of the tribal conflict, at the intersection of the communal mindset that the people have. Okay. What do the courts do to ensure that Muslim women who face routine hate campaigns feel safe in police stations, hospitals, or courts? Why do Dalit women have to fight bitter and grim battles so that judges feel their outrage in their minds, bodies, and behavior? And we have seen, no, police, judiciary take sides because of communal issues, caste issues, and tribal issues. The outrage is very selective. अगर report करने जाओगे, based on your social background, the police can take an action, yes or no. Charge sheet file भी करना है कि नहीं. It happened in case of Hathras case. It happened in case of Unnao case. The case was not being filed itself. That's why the policemen also got punished, and ultimately they also were imprisoned. Okay, so it says okay that this problem happens because of that. Okay. एक और issue है. The documents, name, photographs, videos are leaked both by state and non-state actors. Videos of raped women are also circulated as a resource for competitive party politics. At times, atrocity videos and expressions of outrage are used to expose impunity institutions. Okay, now this is a tricky one. Okay, that can we release such videos to challenge this impunity institutions or not? There's something called as privacy also, no? Okay, the leaks, social media practices, and sexist language deployed by state actors are used to gaslight women. As in, you blame the women ultimately. When an autopsy report, and this was actually a shocking one, and I was surprised कि छाप कैसे रहे. In this medical rape case of Bengal, did you read that one? 150 grams of semen was found. How can this report come to public? Yeah, it's so infuriating. Debate tha on something. It's very nice. It says when autopsy report leads to public discussions about forensics, such as quantity of semen, it is not a discussion about forensic method. Rather, it's a pornography by other means. आप तो मजे ले रहे हो यार in terms of discussing these issues. You are trivializing the issue entirely. This is how male bonds are forged over images of violated bodies. As sexual contract with male state finds wild expansion over digital networks across ideological and political divisions. These kind of things ultimately compromise the privacy, the seriousness. It ultimately establishes more of the impunity institutions. Yeah, it was viral ultimately, you're right. Surely, law must be put in context. This means that recognizing that as a majoritarian law, a state and society is selective, partisan, and sensational. Sadly, when and if the court acts so moto, feminist languages against sexual violence often do not inform legal arguments. ये बात कर रहे थे आपसे. This lady says the courts acting so moto is not a very good thing because of 3 reasons. One is it shows the non-judicial institutions are not working properly. क्या आपका पुलिस काम नहीं कर रहा है? The political system is not responsive. The media has not done a good work. The investigation has been flawed. So court को जबरदस्ती उठाना पड़ रहा है, okay, because it finds nobody else will do it. It's unfortunate. That's one. Second, Okay. The courts rarely go beyond the procedural parts. जैसे क्या कहा सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, that why was the FIR not filed in so and so hours? Why was this TV not working or working? Where is the charge sheet there or not? Why the evidence was destroyed? These are the procedural aspects that court can take up. The court actually doesn't enter into issues of violation, privacy, issues related to impunity institutions. So, court, when it starts taking up the issue on its own, it mainly comments on the procedural parts. It doesn't say it's a consequence of maybe political connivance. It doesn't say it's a consequence of patriarchal mindset. Court dekhega objective evidences hai ki nahi hai. Okay, so it says, okay, sadly, when and if courts act so moto, feminist languages, okay, against sexual violence often do not inform legal arguments. Repeated and excited reference to rape as sexual perversion and animal-like behavior of the rape accused negate feminist constitutionalists who have inaugurated empowering languages about how rape must be understood and spoken about. ये आपको बता रहे थे आपको. The feminists feel the rapes are an issue related to intersectionality of the society. It's an issue related to impunity institutions. There are issues related to women's rights and privacy. The issues related to how patriarchal systems dominate and exploit the vulnerabilities. So, ये जो feminist concerns हैं, they entirely are kept under the carpet. Okay, it says, tragically, patriarchal, majoritarian, carceral and mainstream criminological languages continue to monopolize the way sexual violence is represented, despite excellent interventions by feminist lawyers and advocacy. It is terrifying social fact that rape has to remain a preferred form of patriarchal violence to conserve majoritarian social, political and legal order. Again, a very powerful sentence here. Okay. So, talking about the issues, okay, that the problem lies, and this problem is visible in the way the BNS has been codified eventually. Okay, जो patriarchal notions का हमें डर था और इसका डर रहा है, the patriarchal system perpetuating this, okay, is now established even after we have changed the Indian Penal Code and the Indian Criminal Code. I will refer to one more article. Okay, ये पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, but you might as well know about this one. It's a very, very legal document. Okay, it says, just listen to this. Yes, correct, Anu. The courts will think more theoretical and mechanical, correct. Okay, so this says, I'm reading this couple of lines. It says, the populist trope, T-R-O-P, anybody know what's trope? Trope is a formula. हम बोलते हैं ना, movies में trope होता है. There are 6-7 formulas on which all movies are made. Okay, it's like a poor man, a failure. He fights back, he wins, he again loses, and he conquers. A hit story. Okay, a trope can be a boy and girl. They actually hate each other. Something happens, they come together, they love, and they live happily ever after. That's another trope. Another trope is a very rich man who you will hate. Okay, he does something, he collapses, he completely loses it, then he fights back, he becomes hero and successful. That's another trope. ऐसे कुछ formula होते हैं. Okay, look up this idea. I mean, I forget whose name was that. Very interestingly, he talked about how these tropes can be put on graphs. Okay, sine graph and who was it? I forget. इसका एक YouTube में भी है. Anyway, I'll come back if I remember. So it says, these are very nice ways of writing things. It says, the populist trope of decolonizing and Indianizing the laws has been repeatedly used time and again by scholars. And that has become the basis of the three legislations, which indeed were colonial in the nature, as they give enhanced power to state and correspondingly reduce the ordinary person with rights, entitlement to subject at the mercy of powerful, not accountable state. Since patriarchy is understood to be embodiment of control, authority, subjugation, the recent changes actually are patriarchal in what they were trying to fight. Okay, the laws continue to be lawless and anti-feminist in their goals. तो आप जिस रीजन के वजह से लॉ हटा रहे थे, okay, आपका सारा रीजन अभी भी मौजूद है. You're removing the laws because they were colonial, they were patriarchal, they did not reflect the current mindset, and they were not Indian enough in terms of Indian issues. और जो लॉ बनाया आपने वो कोडिफाइड वही है. इसका बेस्ट एग्जांपल है, the reason for which you removed the planning commission, it's what you are doing under Niti Aayog or PMO. The reason for which, okay, you are trying to, okay, bring in culture, the exactly atrocities are continued happening in the name of culture now. So आपका change कहाँ हो रहा है systems? Okay, so this BNS, okay, and all these codes, it says nothing much. It makes a list of where all we missed out. You can write these points down. Where did BNS miss an opportunity? Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. Where did BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 23, miss out an opportunity? Miss out an opportunity to deal with gender issues and gender crimes. Issue and gender crimes. What are they? Number one, sexual violence and sexual offenses are not yet gender neutral. Sexual violence and sexual offenses are not yet gender neutral. It is not inclusive of rights of transgenders. It is not inclusive of the rights of transgenders and LGBT. While the courts were right in repealing, Article 377 and criminalization of homosexuality, repealing Article 377 of Indian Penal Code and the criminalization of homosexuality. Okay. The BNS does not include sexual violations and sexual crimes. In transgenders and homosexuality. It doesn't include sexual crimes and violence against transgenders and homosexuality. That's one. Number two, write down. Number two, marital rape is still not acknowledged. In fact, IPC had said, I'm reading this, it says, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his wife is not a rape. Okay. And this has been the IPC, और यही हम maintain कर रहे हैं. We call this as MPE बोलते हैं, MRE, as in marital rape exception is the rule here. So all violence okay, but marital case we don't accept that possibility of violence. So we follow the principle of MRE, marital rape exception. It almost is like that the woman's right on her body surrendered to the male in a marriage relationship. It's almost like the woman's right on her body is surrendered to her spouse in a marriage institution. Okay. And one of the hearings में बोला गया था that while MRE was recommended to be repealed, okay, but the Parliamentary Standing Committee rejected the recommendation on the ground that the entire family system will come under great stress. It's like, it's like the system is trying to protect marriage at all costs, irrespective of what it does to its partners. It says, one wonders why the family system must be preserved at the expense of the integrity and sexual autonomy of the married women. Many policy makers perhaps erroneously believe that removal of MRE would make all husbands vulnerable to false complaints by their devious, vengeful and scheming wives. In context of patriarchal society, many women continue to be socio-economically, emotionally dependent on her husbands, and given that she would take advantage of the system here. So, ये एक flaw है. Okay, and it says that BNS should have been far more reformative than what IPC was. And on this point, the idea that okay, a removal of MRE, the idea that removal of MRE would stress the entire Indian families, would stress the entire Indian family system, is an erroneous belief. Is an erroneous belief. Okay. Next, the death penalty for rapes and sexual violence is a populist move. Is a populist move. I'm reading out something. It says, ये facts हैं. Data does not prove the death penalty is a deterrent. In most cases, what happens is a death penalty probably is more likely, okay, that the victim will be murdered. If the victim survives, she can probably give evidence and it will be hanging. So there's more likely that the victim will get murdered because it has death penalty. It says data does not prove the death penalty is deterrent. As per NCRP statistics, 90% of rape incidents involve accused who are known to the victim. Hence, imposition of death penalty would deter the reporting of the crime by the victim, who may face pressure from her family and community to suppress the commission of the offense. It was surprising. 90% of the rape incidents involve people who are family members. So if you give death penalty, the family can put pressure on the girl or the victim, take back the stay, otherwise the guy will hang or whatever. The chances of increased violence on the victim, including murder, to destroy evidence, to ensure the victim is in no condition to identify the perpetrators. This is more so for children who find it difficult to overpower a gang of perpetrators or escape from them. Accused among the weaker and marginalized sections are disproportionately affected by the death penalty. Death penalty में क्या होगा? If the accused comes from Dalit background, or comes from a poor background, he is more likely to get hanged compared to somebody who has money to fight the case and prolong the entire process. There's an inequality here. Okay, and a death penalty for rape, including gang rape, indicates a patriarchal preoccupation of equating a rape with a death. It's an interesting dimension. Dekho, acts like rape definitely are very abhorrent. It's something, I mean, terrible. And we must fight back and fight back really hard on this. But under no circumstances, the victim must be made to feel that she is destroyed. Okay, the victim must be given a chance to come back, okay, counseled back into good health, okay, must be counseled to, okay, if not to forget, at least get out of trauma, psychological level, and lead a normal, regular life. Okay. Death penalty is almost like the victim has also died. And that is questionable because that kind of demoralizes the victims itself. It's like the victim has died, so the accused deserves to die also. This is one of the arguments. Okay, while the accused must be punished, incarcerated maybe, put behind bars lifelong maybe, whatever you can do there. But death penalty implies the victim is also dead, and that's unfortunate. There must be systems where the victims must be counseled back into good health, counseled back into running their own life, okay, and try getting over this as an unfortunate event for the victim, not for the society. Society, definitely it's something they better not forget and move on from there. It says that death penalty for rape, including gang rape minors, indicate the patriarchal preoccupation equating rape with death. Many times we see this. The girl violated means the family's honor is destroyed. It can't be revived back. The only way to revive back is kill the accused and maybe kill the victim also if you can. These are some arguments. It says People's Union for Democratic Rights, among others, okay, insisted on the review of death penalty. The Parliamentary Committee on Home Affairs, okay, acknowledged various merits to move towards abolition of capital punishment, yet left the issue for broad-based social discussion without making a clear recommendation. Even Parliamentary Committee accepts that, yes, this is a case to think and rethink if the death penalty must be abolished. But nothing has been done here. Okay? So 3-4 points. Khushi, I said, no, these are not easy questions to answer. And I think the article brings up 4-5 very interesting notions. One notion is, okay, the idea of impunity institutions, the idea of intersectionality in society with respect to these kind of violence. And third is, okay, whether the courts should be okay with taking suo motu, okay, or should we leave it to a bigger process of social and judicial issues. Okay. So, fine. So, ab batate hain, let us go back and see what all was of discussion here. Okay. The rape accused, perverted, not perverted, is now a questionable word because it actually absolves society of its responsibility. And sometimes an accused can take the plea of being sick also. कि मैं तो बीमार था, right? बीमार था तो accordingly be merciful. Okay. So death penalty discuss कर लिया, role of state discuss किया, marriage. Not an easy question to answer. Marriage is important as an institution. We can respect it, but preserving marriage at all cost is a questionable thing. Okay. And in marriage, the subordinate role that a woman gets in a marriage where the woman is supposed to have surrendered her bodily rights, That's the questionable thing. And definitely, this marital rape exception, okay, must go as far as possible. Even if it means that some marriage comes under strain, so be it. It's like, you know, okay, if I allow you to protest, okay, the quiet, peaceful environment gets disturbed. Isliye nobody protests. And if I allow, okay, for you to question me, you disturb my class, so no questions asked. It's as simplistic as that. So if, because of removing MRE, some families get stressed out, then they deserve to get stressed out. इसका मतलब है उस relationship में woman does not have much respect and belonging there. तो वो तो टूटना ही चाहिए. We must not leave it to counseling every time. Okay? And this issue about the workplace, okay, this is again a debatable one. We do not know. But the fact is, workplace में there must be security. Vishaka guidelines have to be, okay, implemented. Justice Verma committee recommendations must be implemented. And in posh complaints, the employees must have, khaskar the women employees, they must have a role and not give it to the employers. That's about it. Anything else? Yes, correct. Many countries have abolished the death penalty. What to read? All I can say is go back and relook on these 3-4 incidents. You look at the Kathua rape case, Kathua, Jammu Kashmir. Look at Unnao rape. Look at Hathras. Okay, read about Manipur, Delhi. At least know what has happened. There are good examples of impunity institutions. Political ho, tribal ho, communal ho. Okay. Revisit them. कौन सा? हाँ. Web series है. अच्छा, okay. Fine. Yes, Devarga. It's an outrage which I hope happens more often. Okay, not just one sensationalism and it's gone. Nidhi, it will definitely help. But again, that's not only the way forward. Anu, जो बताया आपको, okay, deal with these institutions, okay, the posh regulation, Vishaka guidelines, वही हैं आपके. Okay, that's for today. So, make your notes and let's meet again next week. Okay, bye-bye all of you. Bye. Have a nice weekend. बताओ क्या हो गया? मंडे को हॉलीडे है, वो तुम्हें छेड़ रहा है, तुम समझ में नहीं आ रहा है.